Hey, beautiful family. Thought I'd open up about a personal topic, and I find it fascinating as someone who recovered from addiction in my past to substance abuse, drugs, even overuse of alcohol, really, that I have formed over the last years another addiction. Now, this really span out of control for me as an addiction when I got sick and I was spending a lot of time in bed on my own. So the addiction I'm talking about is the smartphone. It's so handy, it's so useful, it's so alluring, and it's such a slot machine in your pocket. The initial years when I was here in Tanzania, I didn't own a smartphone. I didn't bother. And it was when I started building the website with a developer from Iran that I needed WhatsApp, and I bought my first ever smartphone. So I'm actually fairly recent to this smartphone world. Then when I got ill, I was using it a lot more to connect with the world, with my staff, etc., etc. But what I noticed happening to me bit by bit was my ability to focus and to write posts, study, etc. was just diminishing bit by bit by bit. And I was exchanging my serotonin, which is gifted when you fulfill a task worth fulfilling. And I was exchanging it for dopamine, which any old animal can get if they are gambling or using the smartphone. And especially being in the public light, as it were, to some small degree, the allure of checking how many views, how many likes, etc. really becomes quite damaging on a level that we don't realize. So I thought I'd make a video about this and about my means of tackling it and what I identified as happening to me. Looking around me, I can see a lot of people are sick from smartphone addiction. They're sick. They're actually sick. They cannot focus anymore like they used to. And a lot of people aren't realizing that it's even happening to them. A lot of people are surrendering their capacity to be an original creation. I've often said to look at the screen. But actually internally, it's firing you up onto dopamine and taking you away from that serotonin level of accomplishment. And I saw that bit by bit, the things that I used to wake up that used to enthuse me. I used to wake up and I'd feel enthusiastic, like I'm going to write this post and try and get this child out of child labour. I'd buzz from it. I'd be like, right, let's see if we can get this child help. I found that buzz becoming lesser and lesser. And for a while I thought it's because I was ill and unmotivated. But after dealing with digital minimalism, after addressing that I'm using my phone too much, I felt that buzz starting to come back. And the only way I was able to do that was to increase meditation practice, to do some study on things like digital minimalism, which basically means that you are limiting what apps you use, you limit the way that your phone can be used and the way that you have your tools and utilities set up on your phone. So deleting your apps, limiting the amount of time that you go on there, only going on there to post, not to scroll, etc. I added a home feed eradicator for Facebook, so I don't get any home feed. I just get now positive affirmations in my home feed and there's no other people's accounts, etc. So I've done all of these things because I noticed that there was an internal hormonal chemical addiction going on with me to the phone. I would strongly advise that many people self-evaluate whether that's happening to them as well. You know, this world we live in is built to sell advertising, not to sell products worthy of we humans. It's not trying to sell you the best quality service. It's trying to get your attention. Instagram, Facebook, all of these things, they just want your attention. That's what they are there for. They're not They're there to connect you if you use them to connect. But most people are way beyond there now. They're far past that. They're now in the state where they are, even their physical everyday life, they look and they think, instead of experiencing this, should I take a picture and share it? And you just are cutting off from direct experience of life. And so to do all of this, I increased meditation, etc. And I think I might do a video about this. And I started doing daily breath work. I do an hour a day now of breath work with the Wim Hof method. And all of this was very helpful for me to get more present and centered, and just to cut that initial few days of impulse where boredom was no longer my friend, because I would have this device in my hand, and the solitude deprivation I spoke of recently, I'd reach for the device and it was on impulse. It wasn't on desire or need or necessity towards my goals as a man. It was just purely on impulse. And so now my phone is on black and white for starters. The screen is always on black and white. I don't have it near me most of the time. I don't just pick it up whenever I feel like picking it up. If I feel a pull to pick it up, I've consciously meditated on this so much that now I witness it and I observe it, and I observe the chemical reaction inside me which is telling me to pick the phone up, and I sever it. And instead I come back to the state of what is solitude, which many of us deem to be boredom, and you make friends with that boredom, and you make friends with that by being blown away by the fact that you're alive in this present moment, in this amazing reality which is so phenomenal. You know, it's like that old saying, you have to look at reality in a certain way to understand what I mean. When you become friends with boredom, reality becomes enough. The solitude becomes enough. If zebras were dragons, there's a saying. If zebras were dragons, there are people who would chase after the mythical illusion of finding a zebra instead of just going to look at the dragon. No matter what your reality is, there are people who are always going to desire to be in more than that reality. And mobile phones really satiate that within us. But actually, the satiation, the true satiation, comes from rewiring yourself to accept this reality as the absolute magic that it is. As Roald Dahl said, look to the world with twinkling eyes, for the greatest of secrets are hidden in the most unlikely of places. Those who don't believe in magic never find it. The world is magic. You live in a fairy tale. You live in an Avatar, the movie set. You're here. You don't need the phone to enhance it. You really don't. And when the impulse of you takes you away and says, I need that dopamine, we've got to get conscious of that. We've got to get aware of it so as we can grab it. And even me, who has a lot of spiritual practice, a lot of fasting, meditation, prayer behind me, I was allured by it. I got hooked to that dopamine and I took a stand against it. The breath work is new to my life. I'm going to do videos about this. The effect it's had on my presence with God, my awareness of the chemical firings inside me. For instance, the call out for dopamine, to look on social media, to look on my phone or whatever it might be, to check my likes, to check my views, to read my comments. That impulse now is as loud as in my face. It really is. I don't want to clap too loud, my boys are going to bed nearby, but it's as loud as a clap in my face. I see it now, whereas a few months ago I didn't see it. I would just grab the phone. I'd gotten to that point. I had gotten mindless with something I had let into my inner energetic world as a thing that I need. And I do adore the technology. I run a team of over 100 people with that technology. I use it to help children, etc. But they got to a point where I was not coming to the technology consciously. I was coming in sin, which is to be unconscious of the moment in front of you. I was coming in sin, if you want to go to that word, but I was coming at it unconsciously. I wasn't coming at it with a conscious, focused vibration that was louder than the phone to say, I am here now to use this to bring myself as a man closer to the destiny that I know God has set out for me. Instead, it was coming at me with a louder vibration saying, check me just because. And that just because was chemical inside me. And now I can see that, and my vibration is louder. And when I come to my phone, I come to it with loudness and I say, I am your master. And it's a funny thing. It's a dramatic way to talk about a phone. But I promise you, the reason society is backsliding, the reason society is turning the way it is that big tech companies are using algorithms, and those short, simple algorithms are the first steps of AI overtaking and destroying our human species in my eyes. Just look at it. Just look at the state of the world. Look at the way people they get hooked on conspiracy is one of the worst ones. They get hooked on here, they get hooked on there, never changing anything in the world, but constantly just listening to their own opinions, circulating in different networks online, and then trying to put that opinion on other people. All the while their power to come into the world and say, I choose the vibration of this setting, I choose the manifestation of this setting, is drank away for ad revenue by big companies like Facebook, etc. It's time that we all take a stand against the algorithm, against the social media networks and the damage that they're doing to our health. If you are on Facebook for more than 30 minutes a day, I suggest you cut it off and fast for a while. Go cold turkey and just see the difference. Become aware of when you're picking up your phone to do something in a utilitarian sense, when you're picking it up to connect, or when you're picking it up to use it as a tool to change the world, which I have done effectively, or when all of a sudden that phone is telling you, pick me up so as I can make some advertising revenue from the chemical impulses inside you that my designers and the app designers have very much in mind when they created these apps, to be able to get your attention onto this screen so they can get rich. Not so as you can come into this screen free, sovereign, to use this as a tool to manifest. No. There's a changeover right now. People are not there. People are being pulled in to the screen. They are not using the screen. And even myself faced this problem, and I just want to share that with you all. It's very liberating to find that space within you when you notice chemical reactions like that. That's what I always say about drug addicts, etc. I went through it with the drugs. The impulse came in me for the dopamine from the drug hit. I became conscious of it finally, and I said, no, I witness you, and I see my body doing that, but I, the observer of my body, do not allow that to happen right now. And I've just gone through the same process with a phone, a technology that we're putting in the hands of children. And I'm a former drug addict, and I just went through the same process of overcoming the addiction to my smartphone as what I did when I overcame the addiction to drugs. Be wise. Don't let your children use them. Wait until they are old enough to have been developed enough to not have addictive pathways bred into their mind. Don't just go with the cultural norm. The cultural norm is wrong. God bless, guys.